Hello again, my puppets. My tea's ready. And this cup was given to me. And it keeps your tea. It's by Ember. And it keeps your tea at a constant, well, any hot beverage that's in there, at a constant temperature through an app. It's pretty clever. So mine's at a 50 degrees all the time. Anyway, we're here to read books, so let's read books. This next story I'm going to read to you is one of the stories from my treasure of classic fairy tales, an enchanted collection of classic stories. And we're going to begin in the front of the book. And I just want to show you that in the front of every book that's big like this, that has many stories, they have in the front of the book what they call a contents. And this is the contents. So this is just a list of all the different stories. And it's a good guide. So let's begin. The Little Mermaid. Long ago, in the watery depths of the bluest oceans, a little mermaid lived with her 5 sisters and their father, the Sea King. All day long, the little mermaid played among the bright blooms of the sea gardens and listened to her sisters telling stories about the world beyond the sea. I love my home, said the little mermaid, but I wish I could see the world above the waves. Then on her 15th birthday, the Sea King said that the little mermaid could go to the water's surface and see everything her sisters had seen. The little mermaid was very excited. She waved goodbye to her family and rose, as lightly as a bubble, to the surface. Above the water, the sun was setting. Clouds glowed red and gold in the glimmering twilight. As the little mermaid looked around in wonder, she saw a large ship on which finely dressed people were laughing and dancing. Swimming closer, she learned that they were celebrating the birthday of their handsome young prince. The little mermaid was enchanted when she saw the prince and could not take her eyes off him. As the hours passed by, the sea became restless. The ship's sails began to billow and waves began to rise higher and higher. Heavy clouds darkened the sky and jagged lightning flashed. Soon, oh, did I skip a page? I did. Whoops. Goodness me, they were stuck together. Soon, a terrible storm. Flip. There we go. Soon, a terrible storm struck, and the ship cracked and groaned. Huge crashing waves tore at the mast, and it ripped in two. The little mermaid watched as the prince was flung into the sea and sank beneath the waters. I must rescue him, she thought. Otherwise he will surely die. The little mermaid dived down and pulled the prince up to the surface. She held him tightly until the storm ceased, and she kissed his forehead tenderly. Then she swam with him to a distant beach. The little mermaid left the prince safely on the shore and swam off to hide behind nearby rocks until he awoke. After many hours of waiting, the little mermaid saw a pretty young girl come down to the beach. She ran to the half-drowned prince and held him until he opened his eyes. The prince smiled up at the girl as if she had been the one who had rescued him. Watching from afar, the little mermaid's heart sank, for her handsome prince did not know that it was she who had saved him from the stormy sea. She dived sorrowfully down into the ocean and returned to her underwater home. She sat in her lonely sea garden. The little mermaid thought how she would happily trade her life at the bottom of the ocean for just one day with her prince on the land. It's a bit like sticky bags trying to open them. Soon her longing to see the prince became too much for the little mermaid. I will visit the sea witch, she said. Even though I am afraid of her, she has powerful magic that can surely help me. So the little mermaid flicked her tail and set off down into the coldest, darkest waters that led to the seaweed forest and the home of the sea witch. In a house made of bones, the little mermaid found the sea witch. She told the witch of her story of her prince and how she wished to find him. "Can you help me?" asked the little mermaid. The sea witch cackled. "Drink this potion and you will become human and find your prince," she said. "However, in return, you must give me your voice." The little mermaid agreed and drank the potion. She swam up through the blue waters and reached the surface. The mermaid felt her tail change into legs. She was able to walk on land, but she could not utter a single sound. The little mermaid would never be able to tell the prince how much she loved him. In despair, she fell at the foot of the marble steps that led to the prince's palace. It wasn't long before the handsome prince found the little mermaid. He thought she was a poor beggar and took pity on her. The prince gave her fine clothes and treated her as if she was his sister. Each day he took her riding through the sweet-scented woods, and each day she fell more and more deeply in love with the prince. But the little mermaid could not speak a word of it to him. "You are very dear to me," said the prince one day, "but my father wishes me to marry. I must sail, and at dawn tomorrow to meet a princess of my father's choosing." The little mermaid travelled with the prince to the kingdom where the princess lived. In the streets, bells rang, trumpets blew. The princess appeared, and the prince recognized her instantly. "You are the girl from the beach who rescued me," he said. "I have loved you ever since that first moment I saw you, but I never thought we would meet again. Now we are to be married." With that, the happy prince took the princess in his arms and kissed her. The little mermaid was heartbroken. When no one was looking, she dived back into the sea. As the water covered her legs, they transformed back into a silvery fishtail. Her voice restored, and she swam down into the watery depths, singing her sad song. Oh, that is very sad, isn't it? The little mermaid sobbed in the arms of her father, the Sea King. He hugged her tightly and said, There, child. Do not waste your tears on what is not meant to be. You may have been happy for a while on land, but your heart would have cried out for the ocean. You are a mermaid, and your home is under the sea. You belong here with us." The little mermaid sisters wiped away her tears and combed her hair. Then they swam with her to the surface and watched as the handsome prince and his beautiful princess were married. "Goodbye," said the little mermaid, sadly. And she gave a flick of her golden tail and dived under the gentle lapping waves. The little mermaid was so happy again in her underwater home. All day long she sang and played in the sea gardens and made shell necklaces. On days that the sea was rough and stormy, she thought of her handsome prince. As for the prince, he often wondered what happened to the lovely girl who had been like a sister to him. He recalled how on the day of his wedding he had thought he had saw an image of the girl's face, just for a moment, in the rippling waters. He remembered seeing a slight glint of a shimmering gold that seemed to grow smaller and smaller as it disappeared down into the mysterious depths of the deep blue ocean. And that's the end of the story.